stuff going on around our building. We're gonna do heat pumps. Hey, Thursday, the 12th, we're gonna have an ACR club meeting. Be there. 11:30. Erico's gonna come. Dave Spears. He's gonna. I forgot what they're gonna present. They're gonna do a presentation over something. I don't remember what he said. He's gonna do the class over, but they're gonna bring food. Huh? That was ACIS. Let's see here. The following Tuesday. ACIS is gonna come during your class in here, and they're bringing. Is it Aaron? Is that his name?
Yeah.
Aaron Ross. Yeah. Virgil and Aaron. I don't know who else, but they're gonna come and do a pump class, a fan class for us. I think we've never really done one, but they're gonna talk about laser alignment, vibration analysis, and a lot of cool stuff that goes along with like commercial air conditioning stuff. But we didn't get to do it during commercial air conditioning, so we're gonna do it during capstone. Read the syllabus, it's online. I think everyone's already done that. I kind of went over that. Everybody should be good on that. What else we got? Hinton Refrigeration is going to be here the following Thursday. So we got back-to-back ACR club meetings, one a week. Hinton Refrigeration's coming, and they're gonna be talking about. I don't even know what are they gonna talk about.
I don't know.
Probably food problems. James Stovall, and who else is coming?
Jeremy Stafford.
Jeremy Stafford. I don't know if I've met him. But lots of good stuff going on. Alright, screw it. Let's do heat pump stuff. Y'all ready? Yep. We're gonna jump right into it. What do y'all know about heat pumps?
They pump heat.
Orange wire.
Orange wire, reversing valve. Usually has electric backup heat, electric furnace for auxiliary heat.
Air conditions.
The evaporator is the condenser. The condenser is the evaporator. So we're going to change up terminology. Y'all ready for this? Instead of saying the condenser coil, we're going to say the outdoor coil. Instead of saying the evaporator coil, we're going to say the indoor coil, because they can take turns, right? One can be the condenser, one can be the evaporator. Indoor coil, outdoor coil. Here's something else we're going to change up a little bit. So here you go. This is a heat pump. Watch me go. I'm even going to label it. That's a heat pump. How's that fan motor look?
Good.
It's pretty good. Inside, I've got my coil, my electric furnace in there. Alright, here's what I was trying to draw though. There's the big line. Here's the little line. Artist rendering here. Can y'all tell this is the small line, that's the big line? So what's normally the small line? What do we normally call that?
Whoa.
It's been a long, day. I was so convinced too.
The little line is the liquid line. Yes. Said it with your chest too.
I did. 100%. I don't know why.
I've been there, man. It's fine. The little line is the liquid line. Liquid line. All right. So good news on a heat pump. The liquid line is still the liquid line, no matter what's going on. But it's either liquid headed this way, headed inside like normal, and going to be metered, or it's going to be liquid that just got condensed and is headed back outside, headed that way. So it's just this way or that way. But it's still the liquid line is the liquid line is the liquid line. It's either headed left, in, out, right, up, down, but it's just one way or the other. It's only got two ways you can go, actually. Cool?
Cool, sir.
What's the big line? We usually call it the suction line, right? But now we're going to call it the gas line. Why? Because it can be suction gas, or anybody, hey, there you go. It can be discharge gas. So the big line is now the gas line. If it's in air conditioning mode, no problem. Everything's normal. In air conditioning mode, everything's normal. Liquid's going inside, gets metered, boom, evaporates, suction gas coming back, right? No problem. In heat mode, kadoosh, the reversing valve switches, and it's gonna send discharge gas. You see the red marker? It's hot. Discharge gas. Discharge gas. High pressure, high temperature. What's the state of the refrigerant? Superheating, right? Down the discharge line. So we got discharge gas going up the suction line. It's going up the gas line. It goes into the indoor coil. Discharge gas starts to de-superheat, condenses, subcools, does condenser things. So now we got liquid. Liquid's gonna leave the indoor coil. Liquid line is the liquid line, but now it's just going this way. Goes outside, meters, boom. We're gonna use this coil as the evaporator. Back to the compressor, gets sucked in, discharge, back out, through the coil, up to liquid line backwards, back outside, meter, poof, rock and roll. Looks easy like that, right? It really is that easy. So the liquid line is the liquid line. Suction line is now the gas line. So on every single heat pump out there, there's gonna be a third port. And it's gonna be tied to the true suction, and typically it's like right there between, where we usually hook up. Usually there's a third port sticking out between them somewhere right there. And that third port is always suction gas. I'm even gonna write it down. Third port is called the common or true suction. It's always suction gas. I would get in the habit of hooking up to that. Because guess what? If you hook up your suction gauge to the suction line, like normal, if you hook it up to the gas line, and it goes in heat mode, you're gonna retard your gauge, right? Your suction gauge is gonna be pegged. And it could hurt it, potentially, maybe, probably, maybe. So just get in the habit, on heat pumps, find that third port, and just always connect your suction right there. Hook the blue hose right there. Make sense? Easy. Third port, common suction, true suction, always suction. Y'all good with that? Anybody know what kind of liquid line dryer we use on a heat pump?
Bi-flow.
Bi-flow, right? Because this liquid is either headed this way or it's headed that way. So let's talk about liquid line dryer really quick. You guys remember, here's a really common liquid line dryer. Mr. Davis talks about these, doesn't he? He schooled you guys on dryers, so y'all know all this. Y'all remember like what the 16 is?
Cubic inches.
Cubic inches of descant material in there and stuff like that.
Yeah. 3 is once.
Yeah. 3/8.
That's a sweat.
It's a sweat. Y'all did go over these, huh? So 163 is a pretty good size, and that's it'll handle 5 tons, typically, I think. 163 is a pretty good size liquid line dryer. So, dryers, directional, right? They got the arrow on them. Makes sense? So, on heat pumps, whenever we use a bi-flow, I'm going to try to draw this. It's 2 dryers in 1. Yeah. Cut it in half. There's a check valve right here. And there's a check valve right here. Not too bad. Not as bad as I thought. So, in our liquid line, I think I've said this a gazillion times now. Liquid's either headed this way, headed outside, or headed inside, right? Just liquid line is a liquid line is a liquid line. It's always liquid. I can always get high side pressure and do subcooling just like normal on my liquid line. Always. But back to this dryer. A 163S, 16 cubic inches. So now they took a 16 cubic inch dryer, they chopped it in half. When refrigerant flows this way, it pushes open that check valve right there, goes through all the desiccant, all the screen, everything. Y'all remember how a dryer works? refrigerant drops down in here, uses this bottom part of the dryer, and then it pops back out. When refrigerant is also coming this way, it tries to go that way, but the check valve won't open. Whichever way the check valve is pointing, see the little arrow? That's the way it allows flow. It won't allow flow coming back at it into the arrow. So now when refrigerant comes this way, it pushes open that check valve, uses that one. When it comes this way, pushes open that check valve, uses the top part. So we're using the top part for summer, bottom part for winter kind of thing. Make sense? It's 2 dryers in one. Ooh, what if you're gonna put a suction line dryer on a heat pump? What if you, hey, let me back up. When would you install a suction line dryer? Burnout, compressor burnout, right? You're gonna add the acid neutralizer, you're gonna put a suction line dryer on it, or whatever you're gonna do to clean this up. You're gonna come back and check it and see if it cleaned up, if it neutralized. If you're on a heat pump, you can't put the suction line dryer out here, typically. Because if we put a suction line dryer out there, they're directional. So, would it work in air conditioning mode? Yep. Because it's suction gas in air conditioning mode, right? But what's going to happen in the heating mode? Yeah, everything that is captured. So now we got hot discharge gas going through the dryer. Dryer doesn't like the hot discharge gas. I think everything that we caught in that dryer is now going to be pushed out. The screens, that if they got anything in them, it's going to be pushed out into the system, all that good stuff. So, if you're going to put a suction line dryer on a heat pump, you got to find that true suction line. It's between the reversing valve and the compressor. I'll draw that here in a second. But the only true suction, the only place on a heat pump that's always suction is from the reversing valve, middle port, to the compressor. Middle port to the compressor is true suction, common suction. Here's one that Aeon gave us. Check out this big old thing. She put in work. This was actually used for hot gas bypass dehumidification, but it's still a 3-way valve. We'll talk about reversing valves and stuff too. We got lots of time. I wanted to show you guys the refrigeration circuit. Y'all feel okay about that? No problem. 3rd port, your gauge is up there. Liquid line is the liquid line. You can always hit your high side there, no problemo. Cool. Dryer. A suction line dryer would have to go in that true suction, that common suction between the reversing valve and the compressor. Where's the only true suction? Common suction.
Center port of the reversing valve.
Center port of the reversing valve, from the reversing valve to the compressor. What else are we going? Oh, let me do this for you guys. If you don't write anything else down, you better write this down. Heat pump refrigeration circuit. Compressor. Reversing valve. I need a blue marker. I don't feel like a real teacher. I'm so sorry. I need a blue marker for the suction gas.
Gosh, Mr.
Is that blue one?
I quit. Huh?
Hey, you got your degree. You got your degree. Just get out of here.
It's a magic marker.
That'll work.
Just
Detail it more cleanly.
The single port on the reversing valve that's all by itself is discharge. This girl down here hanging out is discharge gas. Straight from the compressor into the reversing valve. Discharge. Which one's suction? Center. Middle. Middle. Alright. So this is where I would use that blue marker, and it would have been so legendary. It would have been awesome. That would have been blue, guys. here's something else you need to know. This discharge gas will never, ever, 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 ever come out this port and go straight back to the compressor. It shouldn't. It shouldn't. Ever.
Never?
Ever. There's a loop-de-loop in the reversing valve. You see this little U shape right here? There's a loop-de-loop. So right now, where's this discharge gas headed out?
The right side.
Right side. So here you go. Here's how I would draw this. And you will have to draw this, I promise you. I'm gonna beat you guys up with this. Let's say this is the outdoor coil. And then this is the indoor coil. Make them kind of face each other a little bit. Got an outdoor coil, got an indoor coil. That's obviously the reversing valve, hopefully. Alright, so right now, discharge gas is coming out and it's leaving this side port right here, feeding the outdoor coil. Everybody got this? You will, I'm gonna, like, I'm telling you guys, like, next week I'm gonna be like, draw that circuit, boom. Get out a piece of paper, draw that circuit, boom. You're gonna know this. So if this one feeds that coil, then this one feeds the other coil. And then I'm going to do a metering device and a metering device. Connect them.
Wait, they have two.
There's two metering devices on a heat pump, one inside, one outside. We'll talk mini splits. I'm not done. But then, let's see. Check valve. Check valve. These check valves are going to be inside the TXVs most of the time, unless it's a 1988 unit or something like that. That's it. That is a heat pump refrigeration circuit. That will save you some problems.
Where's the dryer at on it?
Well, that's what we're going to add some things.
Next to the washer.
Do many splits only have one expansion?
Yes.
That's like that.
Yeah. Mini splits are a
And
little
it's
different.
outside.
Yeah, outside, yeah. Mini splits are a little different. Mini splits, that's why we insulate both lines, because it's not a liquid line, it's an expansion line. So it gets metered outside, and then expansion gas, the expansion refrigerant, runs up the expansion line at 75-25 mixture, runs up the expansion line, comes inside, but that's not how a regular, typical 2 to 5 ton heat pump works. We'll talk mini splits. Hey, on a regular heat pump, you should never have to insulate the liquid line, right? Liquid line is the liquid line is the liquid line. It's always liquid. So you're liquid headed that way or liquid headed that way. So it's always liquid. Mini splits is where we get into the expansion line. Let's chase this out real quick.
Alright.
You want to come do it?
No.
Yes.
Alright, let's do this.
Any takers? Especially y'all three. 4. No?
What are we doing?
Come explain this.
Come explain. Lucas can do it.
Lucas can do it.
Lucas can do it.
No, you can't. Sit down.
I know.
Discharge gas comes into the reversing valve, into that single port all by itself. Discharge gas comes in, and right now it's going to be forced out this side, so discharge gas into the outdoor coil. So, what mode are we in?
Heating mode.
Is it heating mode or air conditioning mode?
Air conditioning.
Air conditioning. because we're sending hot gas to the outdoor coil. We're rejecting that heat to the outside where it doesn't matter. We're just gonna dump it out there, don't care. Dump it outside, right? So put the heat outside. So outdoor coil is doing condenser things. De-superheat, condense, subcool. Now we got liquid leaving the condenser, right? That's its job. And then it comes, and as soon as it leaves the condenser, it's like, man, I could go through that metering device backwards, but screw that. I got this check valve, and it's just a little trap door, and it can just pop it open. Whichever way the arrow's facing is the way it opens or whatever, so it pops open the check valve. And liquid is gonna just go right past, it's gonna skip the metering device that's outside. So now I still got liquid, and it heads up the liquid line, goes inside, hits the check valve, wants to do it again. Check valve's like, nope, ain't happening. I only have to go open this way. I don't allow flow this way, right? It's a check valve. So it's forced through the metering device, expansion line, hits the indoor coil, 75-25 mixture, hit our saturation point, evaporates, superheats. Everybody good with all that? Now we got a superheated suction gas. It comes back to the compressor, to the reversing valve. Loop-de-loop. See how it comes in and it just does like a, and comes right back out.
How'd they go?
Loop-de-loop. You asked for it. I'm recording, don't you worry. Suction gas comes back, does a loop-de-loop, back to the compressor. If you're gonna put a suction line dryer on this machine, where are you gonna put it?
True suction.
Yep. Middle port. You guys know that suction line dryers aren't supposed to be left on the system. I meant to say that earlier. Like you're supposed to take them back off. You know that? What if I was gonna put a liquid line dryer? We're obviously gonna put a liquid line dryer on it, but where does it go on the system? Liquid line, which is right here. What kind of dryer is it gonna be? By flow. As long as it's on a liquid line. Carrier, if y'all ever read any carrier stuff, they want it within like 24 inches or something of the indoor TXV. So on carrier wants the dryer inside. Alright, y'all ready for the magic? You wanna see this? Reversing valve switches.
Whoa.
What? Are you gonna do the noise too?
Kadoosh. Kadoosh. Man, that's totally your fault.
I thought there was a short. It's being a kadoosh, isn't it?
Now, looky over here, boys. Discharge gas left the compressor, hit the reversing valve. It can only go out that way. So guess what? That's the gas line right there, because that was suction gas a while ago. So now it's discharge gas. This is our gas line. That's going to be the big line, leaving the outdoor unit. The suction line, right? But now it's the gas line. So now, hot discharge gas goes up the gas line, goes inside, goes into the indoor coil, basically runs through it backwards. And so it's going to do condenser things. We're going to de-superheat, saturate, condense, subcool, condenser things. Leaves the indoor coil, doesn't want to go through the metering device, can easily push open this check valve. Push open the check valve, still not metered, still just liquid refrigerant, right? Liquid line, doing liquid line things. Goes back outside and can't push open this check valve, so now it's forced through the metering device. So now we're going to use the outdoor coil as the evaporator. So it's going through it backwards, and we're going to do evaporator things outside. So we're basically going to be air conditioning outside to be able to pick up some heat. Leaves the outdoor coil. Now we got a superheated suction gas, low pressure, right? All that good stuff. Goes to the reversing valve, does a loop-de-loop, loop-de-loop, true suction, back to the compressor.
Easy.
Got it?
Yep.
Let me show you something else. This thing's cool. Don't brag on this thing till you see it. Now you can rag on it. It's old, but it's cool.
Looks pretty cool.
What?
This thing has an asset tag on it from 1969, no joke.
That's actually really cool.
It is
what?
It's from 1969.
We should put that on float. Yeah, we should. That on the Christmas float. It looks like Christmassy.
It does,
Load it up on the Ram.
So, compressor, reversing valve, let's put it in cooling mode.
We can't.
It's broke.
Wow.
Discharge gas comes into the reversing valve, leaves that port, goes to the outdoor coil. There's that check valve, liquid refrigerant, right? We got liquid leaving the condenser. So liquid comes up the liquid line, goes inside, meters, does evaporator things, back to the outdoor unit, back to the reversing valve, loop-de-loop, back to the compressor. Loop-de-loop. Loop-de-loop.
Coolest thing ever. It's so retro.
Alright, let me show you guys this real quick. We got a few more minutes. In the heat mode now. So now discharge gas leaves this old Bristol compressor. It discharges out the top. I haven't seen one of those in like 20 years, probably 10. Yeah, a long time. Discharge gas leaves the top of the compressor, goes in the reversing valve, comes out this port, goes up the gas line. So we're in the big line that we would normally hook up to our suction gauge, right? The suction line, it's the gas line. Hot discharge gas is going up that, goes inside, goes in through the indoor coil. We pick up all that heat, and we put all that heat in the space, and we do condenser things. We got liquid refrigerant leaving the indoor coil, pushes open the check valve, goes back outside, meters, uses the outdoor coil as an evaporator. Now we got suction gas, because we did evaporator things. Loop-de-loop this way, back to the compressor. Sweet. If it's 20 degrees outside, is there heat in the air?
No.
Not very much, right? If it's 0 degrees, is there heat in the air?
No.
Yes.
Yes. Define heat.
You define heat.
Hey, got you.
Define cold, right?
Let's
So what is heat?
More cold.
It's an energy, man. Hey, here's where I was going with that. Anyone remember absolute zero? What is it? Negative 460. So there is heat in the air all the way down to negative 460 degrees. So even whenever it's 5 degrees outside, 0 degrees outside, if it's 0 degrees outside, I can still use this outdoor coil to absorb heat from the outdoor air. There's still heat in the air, even though we don't feel like it. We're like, man, it's cold as shit out here, or whatever, right? There's still heat in the air, and we can absorb it. That's the heat that we're going to put into the house. Where does the other heat come from? We got all kinds of heat.
Compressor.
Compressors generate some heat, right? Active compression, anytime you compress, and friction, the molecules start going crazy. So you got friction, friction equals heat. Yep. So compression equals heat. So we got heat from outside, we got heat from a compressor, and we're going to take all that heat and put it into the space. Let me show you guys some other things about heat pump. What's up?
So at what point does the electric heater kick in now?
That's a good question. So there will always, in Oklahoma, there will always be a backup or auxiliary heat, because we can't get enough heat out of this heat pump to satisfy the heating requirements, right? If you're in like South Florida, like let's go, but you probably don't need any backup heat. Like you could probably just, let's Miami, right? Let's If you're in South Florida, South Texas, like where it's really super duper warm, like you have to size, heat pumps are sized for the air conditioning load. Everybody cool with that? Register that in your brain. This thing is sized for the air conditioning load. So if you're down in South Texas or whatever, and you got a 5-ton air conditioning load, we now have a 60,000 BTU heater as well, because that's your heat. Your heat pump's just gonna flip. So it'll do 60,000 BTUs until it gets super cold outside. But it doesn't get super cold outside in South Texas. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So up here, and whatever, we're gonna need some kind of backup source because the heat pump will lose ground. And so there's no magical number, but it's usually like, there's a balance point. We'll talk more about this. 30-ish degrees. Once it gets to about 30 degrees outside, the heat pump will basically run non-stop. And guys, it depends. It's not, don't just be like, Boulder said 30 degrees, balance point. Like every house is different, every system's different, everything's different. And we can solve for balance point. I can show you guys how, but take your heating capacity plus your heating loss, your heat gain, heat loss, and you can figure balance point. But balance point is anytime the heat pump is running non-stop just to maintain how much the structure is losing. And it's usually around 30 degrees. So, what happens if you're, this thing's making some funny noises. What happens if you're below the balance point?
Your electrocutor kicks in.
Yeah. Typically, most, not all, but most heat pumps, the backup is electric. We can talk more about this too, like application. Backup?
You said typically it's
Second stage.
Oh.
So first stage will be your heat pump, and then backup. Second stage will be an electric furnace that will run with it. We're gonna talk more about it, don't worry. I'm bombarding you guys with some stuff, that's all right. So, if we're below the balance point, heat pump runs non-stop. Everybody agree?
Yep.
What if we're above the balance point? How does it act? It's like normal. Anyone ever worked on a dual fuel, like seen a heat pump with a gas furnace backup? You'll see those too. So, guys, most heat pumps are gonna be in like rural areas where people are like, I gotta either go total electric or I gotta go propane. And so you'll see a lot of heat pumps in rural areas, and you'll also see a lot of heat pumps, like you'll go into one neighborhood and like the whole damn thing, every single house in there has a heat pump on it, or it'll have a dual fuel heat pump, and it's because the contractor, the builder of the homes, like got a kickback or signed up in some program for PSO or whatever, and they're like, hey, if you put heat pumps in, you know, whatever program they've got going on, like here's some money, right? And so he's like, everybody gets a heat pump, like Oprah, right? Like you get a heat pump, you get a heat pump. Right?
What do you prefer?
Depends. Hey, if you've got, here's Boatner's opinion for Tulsa area, for this part of the world. If you've got access to natural gas, like natural gas is where it's at. When we built our house like 10 years ago, I had a bad taste in my mouth from propane. We were living in a trailer house or whatever. This is when my son was first born. We were burning through like $400 of propane a month trying to keep that damn thing like 72 degrees. So I was kind of done with propane. And so I went total electric with a heat pump.
You like it?
Yeah.
We had the same problem in our house, and then like going through a lot of propane,
Yeah.
we moved, and then we got a new roof, and it dropped tremendously.
Really?
Because we got a metal roof, and so it helped the heat in a lot better.
Side note, and we'll talk a lot about this, but if you're dual fuel, if you got a gas furnace backup, you can't run the heat pump and the gas furnace at the same time. You think about a gas furnace stacked up.
Yeah.
You got a gas furnace, you got the coil on top. If that coil is acting as the condenser, we don't want to start blowing 130 degree air across it off of the gas furnace, right? So anytime you're dual fuel and you go into second stage and it's going to light off the furnace, we will lock out the heat pump. But most of the time, if it's total electric, you're in a rural area, run the heat pump till the cows come home. Man, you'll hear some people say like, if it gets below 35 degrees, you gotta flip it over to emergency heat. I don't want anyone in here to ever tell anybody that ever in their life, ever.
Say it again.
Thank you. If it gets below 35 degrees outside, you flip that thermostat over to emergency heat. So every heat pump thermostat will say heat and then emergency heat. So heat runs the heat pump. And if it calls for second stage, brings on the electric furnace or whatever. We're talking total electric right now. First stage brings on heat pump, second stage brings on electric heat. There's a lot of people out there and they're like, it gets below 40 degrees outside. Flip it over to emergency heat, and what that does is it locks the heat pump out, and it's only gonna run the electric furnace. So your electric meter's like, beep, like that some bitch will wake you up at night. What's that noise? That thing's gonna be getting it. You're like, don't do it. Don't do it, man. The only time to flip it over to emergency heat, in my opinion, and I'll fight for this, the only time, if you're total electric, the only time to flip it on emergency heat is if it's sleeting or snowing real hard outside, you got freezing rain, like, yeah, you got a fan blade out there spinning, like, go ahead and shut her down, you know? But other than that, run that heat pump till the cows come home, till the ice is building up on it, like the fan blades out there chopping ice, like, ding, 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 like, she's fine.
How'd that
She
go
go another
again?
couple hours. Ding, 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 cha, cha. Backfire. No, seriously, run the heat pump. If it's total electric, run it till the cows come home. Do not flip it to emergency heat unless it's sleeting or you got some snow drifts or something going on. And we'll talk about the coefficient of performance and all that stuff, but a heat pump, even when it's like 10 degrees outside, a heat pump is still 50% more efficient than running the electric furnace. So you want to, if you care about comfort, then fine, flip it to emergency heat. But just know your electric bill is going to go up considerably.
Silly question. Why don't they put like backup heats in mini splits? Not enough room.
Some, like the OG ones had them. We had a, what was that thing, a Samsung or something?
Like we have a Mitsubishi in my garage, and when it got colder and all get out last year, my garage was about 40 degrees.
Dang.
Yeah.
Is it cooling okay?
Yeah. But when it was -10 and 6 inches, 8 inches of snow on the ground, it was.
Yeah. That snow is really good too.
Yeah.
Mini splits can put out some big heat in the wintertime and stuff. They're all, mini splits can put out a bunch of heat and everything. They're inverter driven, and so it'll actually like ramp. It will speed up the compressor, and it'll actually take it up into the service factory, like speed it all the way up, and it'll speed up the outdoor fan to the moon to try and absorb some heat from outdoor, and it'll slow down the indoor fan, and it'll do extra stuff like that, go into hot heat mode and all that. But yeah, mini splits, cool. When they're right, they're right. You want to know my opinion on mini splits? Like when they're right, and when they're wrong, it's like, oh, sometimes they can be wrong. What else?
What are some common issues that causes a reversing valve to fail?
They really don't fail that much, and we're going to spend a whole day talking about reversing valves. I hardly ever replaced a reversing valve.
So I mean, answer my question.
Sometimes you have a reversing valve. I've only seen this like once. Went and helped a guy on it. The reversing valve was leaking through, and it looked like a bad compressor. So you hook up to it, pressures are basically equalized, compressor's running, but it's taking discharge gas and bleeding through into the suction side. So every once in a while.
I was gonna ask that. Do you have to change, like, if you change a compressor, should you change your reversing valve? Just.
It's a tough one.
I mean, because how many times do you change a compressor and it does it again? Now you gotta put another one in it, and you still don't know why.
You'd have to, yeah. I would almost show up with a compressor and a reversing valve. Take some temperatures. If you discharge gas, take some temperatures, clamp on here, clamp on here. Hopefully you can see it, find it there, but that's not even foolproof. We'll talk more about reversing valves and all that good stuff. Alright, see you guys.